right, Formula One fans, let's talk about George Russell's crash with Valtteri Bottas. I was so disappointed. I cannot begin to tell you. From where I was sitting, which was in my living room watching, I wasn't at Imola, I wasn't there. But from where I was sitting and all the camera angles that I got, it was George's fault. That crash was totally George's fault. Now, for those that did not watch, let me explain to you what happened. So, Valtteri started in P8, that race in Imola, and he was struggling, So at a certain point during the race, here comes George Russell trying to overtake him. Except George did not succeed in the overtake. He ended up crashing into Valtteri and they spun. Both of them hit the wall to the right. But the biggest impact was on Valtteri Bottas's car, and both of them cursed. But obviously George cursed more because, I imagine they are cursing in English. And, English is George Russell's first language, it's not Valtteri's. Valtteri's is good at English too, but, if you're swearing in your first language, you're likely to have a lot more swear words than the guy that's swearing in a language that is second language. So George Russell had a lot to say, and he said it because he believed it was Valtteri's fault. From where I was sitting, I beg to differ. It was not. But regardless of his fault it was, the way that Valtteri Bottas's car hit the wall, the impact was so big, that anything could have happened. Anything could have happened. And guess what happens next? I'll tell you what happens next. What happens next is that George Russell gets out of his car and walks over to Valtteri's car. And all of us are thinking, oh, that's nice. What a caring, colleague, shall we say. He's going over to check on Valtteri Bottas. And what do we see after George Russell gets there? He hits Valtteri on the helmet. What? The man just nearly died. And this young boy went and hit him on the head. What is going on? First, we all thought that he was going over to check on Valtteri and see if Valtteri was okay, because crashes happen on the grid. Things happen, You don't dwell upon it like they used to do back in the day when they would sabotage each other. You keep pressing. George Russell crashed, and then he left his car to go over to the other guy's car, not to check on him, but to sort of blame him and then thump him. Well, not really thump, but like slap him with his gloves on the helmet. Valtteri wasn't having it, so he gave George the finger. You know which finger. He was probably thinking, what's this guy doing? Personally, I was very disappointed. And I think a lot of these people, when they get to this position, they start to think that they're all that. George Russell has been drinking his own Kool-Aid. He's been drinking his own Kool-Aid. That's what he's been doing, because he's buying into all the hype about him. And that's the last thing you want to do. You can't buy into all the hype about yourself. You have to remain humble. But look what George did, because I think somehow George feels that if there is a spot in Mercedes, it's Valtteri's spot, and it should go to him as George. People keep underestimating Valtteri, and they are wrong. So what if he's consistently number 2? Do you know how much work it takes to be consistently number 2? There are a lot of people that want to be number 2, but they are not making it. And the guy that's number 1, well, he's really good too. Why does Mercedes keep Valtteri? Because Valtteri is very good. So if George thinks that just because he drove once for Mercedes and did a good job, that he's ready to take over Valtteri's spot, he's got another thing coming. Because it's not just about skill. It takes a lot of experience to be in the top 2. It takes a lot of experience to become a world champion, to stop making mistakes, to be mature, to be a person that makes the right decisions on the track. And George showed that he's not there. So as far as I'm concerned, George can stay in Williams and keep learning. Keep learning how to be a compassionate human being, who, after a man rams into a wall at the speeds at which they are racing on the racetrack, his first thought is not, oh, he's cost me the race. his first thought should have been, is that man alive? But his first thought was, what is he doing? Let me go over there and just, let him know what I think of him. And that's entirely wrong. That's entirely wrong. A lot of people felt let down by George Russell. And there is a moment during the race, there is a moment during the crash where George's wheel went on the halo. So if it hadn't been for that halo, George would have literally smashed Valtteri's head. But what does George do? As soon as the car comes to a stop, hops out and runs over to blame the man that he nearly killed. What's going on? I felt so let down, and really, I had expected more of George. But something I believe about people's personalities, is that it's all in the eyes. And some of these people, when you look in their eyes, you can see a bit of who is what. You look into Sebastian Vettel's eyes, you see a man who cares about other people, a humble man, an honest man. At least that's the impression I get looking at him. In his interactions with people, you see that Sebastian is a good person. When I look into George's eyes, I see a spoiled young man, I see a spoiled young man that's, full of himself and thinking that he's all that. And I felt let down. He nearly killed a man, and so what if it has been Valtteri's fault? So what? That was still nowhere to react, and it was very disappointing, because George Russell's excuse was that Valtteri veered a bit to the right when George Russell was trying to overtake, which in turn spooked George, But Valtteri was not just going to sit there and let himself be overtaken. It's a race. He's going to defend a little bit. If you do not have the experience to tell you that this little that he has veered to the right shouldn't make you correct so far to the right that you go, of course, then that's your own problem. George Russell should not have corrected that far off that he spun and lost control. If he had the experience, the experience that comes from years of being in these situations, he would have known not to correct by too much, because there was still enough room for George Russell to overtake Valtteri. Even after Valtteri did that barely visible swerve to the right that they are talking about, that a lot of us did not see. So personally, I feel that there is no excuse for George. George made a mistake. He posted an apology on Instagram and talk about too little too late. It was already done, and yeah. I don't know what he can do about it except keep learning and grow from it, like he said, but that was a real letdown. I felt bad for Valtteri. I don't know if George would have done that to anybody else, is what I'm trying to understand. Like if George had crashed with Kimi Raikkonen, and everybody knows Kimi Raikkonen has got no jokes for anyone. So if George had crashed with Kimi Raikkonen, would he have done that to Kimi? Or if George had crashed with Sebastian Vettel, would he have done that to Sebastian? Let's say George had crashed with Lando Norris. Maybe he would have. They're young, they joke around together, But if George had crashed with Charles Leclerc, would he have gone over and done that? I don't know, maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't have. But that was a real letdown. That was very poor judgment. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. If you enjoyed watching this, be sure to watch my other videos. Like, comment, subscribe. Let the algorithm know that you enjoy my content. It helps me out. It helps my videos. It helps me reach more people that enjoy this kind of content, so that, we as Formula One fans can keep having fun together, discussing things together, debating. But keep it good debate. Do not be rude. Do not leave ugly remarks in the comment sections. Just keep it cute, Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.